Alright guys, well, welcome back to the channel. We are doing some more teardown of the Norton Commando. There is not much left. Let's take a look at it right now and see what we have left to pull apart. So, as you can see, there's not much left at all. So I have to get this gearbox out and the engine plates with the swing arm. That should all come out as one piece. And then I just have to get the front end apart, and that is it. So we are on the home stretch right now. I think the first thing I'm going to try to do is to remove all of this right here. I think maybe it'll all come at once. I'd like to remove the gearbox first. So let's see, I'm no Norton expert. This is my first time ever disassembling one of these bikes. So let's get to it. This ice elastic is about to come out and the whole thing should come out at one time. There we go. Alright, well, I don't know if that's the correct way to do that, but that is a way to do that. Now I have to set this down and separate all this. Alright, now we are going to start on the front end. We will remove that front fender and then go from there. The other side, and also see one side in the middle here. Alright, now we will remove these inner bolts. And then the same thing on the other side. Alright, now we can lift this fender out. Alright, to remove this wheel, we have take this nut loose here, which I've already broken loose. And we have to take this axle out. There was a pinch bolt on this side holding it in. It still is, so I need to take that loose as well. And then I can push this axle out. Alright, as you can see, we had some things start to fall. The bike was leaning forward, so I was able to get the wheel out and then the fender out as well. Now I have the bike kind of resting on the front forks right there. It's not good for it, but it's not bad for it either. So it's kind of one of those things. It is what it is. I guess the next step would to be remove those front forks. Then it'll be able to rest on the frame entirely. So I guess the first thing to do is remove our gauges. Alright guys, as you can see behind me, I have my Commando all the way down to the frame. So the next step is getting together a list of things that I need, things that I want, etc., etc., and also separating all the parts of what I have to what I want to get powder coated versus polished and things like that. That way I have two separate piles of what's going to wear. So I already started making a list here of parts that I do want, and I'll share some of that with you. A new front fender. The front fender that was on there was painted and not polished. I think the polished fender looks better, and that's the way it came from the factory. So I'm going to go back with that. So this is not a complete factory spec restoration. This is kind of more of, I guess, a resto mod, as you would call it, as I'll be doing clip-ons and the rear sets and changing a few other things out like that. But the front fender, I think a polished one looks better, so that's what I'm going with. Obviously all the gaskets, so you know, the primary gasket, all the engine gaskets, everything, the gearbox gaskets, all that. I want to go redo the exhaust because it was kind of nicked up a little bit and has some spots on it, so I want to just a full new exhaust, that way it looks good. Let's see, what else do we have? A primary drive belt. It was kind of shredded a little bit, and then the front gear for that primary drive as well. Horn. The running joke is Norton Commandos are built around the horn. It had one mounted up here, but I kind of want to put it back in the factory spot. Possibly a new gearbox shell. So that was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, was the gearbox. The bolts wouldn't go all the way into the shell. Some of them were stripped out, some just had been helicoiled poorly. So maybe a new gearbox shell. I have to look into what I'm going to do to that to get that correct. So maybe rebuild the gearbox, so that'd be like a gearbox rebuild kit with all new bearings, things like that. I want to do all new hardware on here, all new bolts. So I've got the head bolts, you know, all different types of bolts on here, engine mount bolts, crankcase bolts, everything. I want to do all new hardware on here, give this bike the attention that it deserves. For the head bearings up here, I want to do tapered steering bearings, as they seem to be a little bit better. But I also want to do is some billet triple trees. So that's going to be a bit of a pricey item, but I think it'll look good and it'll be worth the effort. Since I'm doing the clip-ons, I won't need the top mount for the handlebars, so I think some billet triple trees will look nice. But since this is a early Commando, the steering stops are a little bit different, so I'm going to have to cut those steering stops off and have a different steering stop welded on to make it fit for the kit that I'm looking at. Also, I'm always kind of finding new things there. So this is the mount for the coils. As you can kind of see here, it is broken where my finger is. Somebody kind of drilled through that and messed that up. So the new bracket here for the coils will be good as well. And I'll be finding more and more things as I go along, I'm sure. But that's kind of a little update of where I am now. These updates will probably slow down a little bit as I'm not made of money and I kind of have to save up to purchase the parts that I want. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and separate what I want powder coated. That way I can drop everything off and have everything powder coated, and then get the triple trees that I want and go ahead and start getting this put back together a little bit. Alright, well that's it for this little update. So thank you for that. I know I got a lot of people watching here that are not subscribed, so if you want to follow along the journey, please subscribe if this brings back a little bit of nostalgia to you as well. Just hit the subscribe button. I've got some more kind of cool, interesting old bikes. The P11 video did very well, so thank you very much for that. I have some more bikes kind of a bit cooler than the P11, believe it or not, coming up soon. I've got some new cameras so I can get some different angles, things like that. So I'm steadily making improvements. So if you like any part of this at all, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. It doesn't cost you anything but a fraction of your time, maybe a second, but it does help me out. That way I can continue having these videos come towards you. Thank you, and have a great